Small
I
neon-lit
didn't
diner on
know
the
they allowed
outskirts of Terra
unauthorized
Station
species
IX
in the main
blinked
concourse.
quietly in the
Only
shadow of
the
the massive
charming ones.
orbital docks.
Handsome.
The hum of energy conduits and the faint hiss of recycled air gave the place a strangely cozy atmosphere. Only a handful of patrons lingered, mechanics in stained jumpsuits, traders nursing nutrient-synth drinks, and a lone transporter pilot checking his wrist hollow for delayed shipments. Nothing remarkable, nothing extraordinary. Behind the counter, Jaren moved with habitual precision, wiping tables, stacking plates, and occasionally glancing at the hollow menu above. His uniform was simple, unremarkable, a gray apron over a worn shirt, and he liked it that way. There were no royal sigils, no flashy holocoms, just a man who had been serving meals to the same corner of space for nearly a decade. To him, life was simple. Keep the diner running, keep the patrons fed, and don't worry about politics, fleets, or rulers. And then she entered. The bell above the door chimed softly, a hollow metallic sound that somehow cut through the low hum of conversation. Heads lifted, but only briefly. Some patrons assumed it was a wealthy trader, others a diplomat. But to Jaren, it was just another customer until he looked up fully. She moved with a grace that seemed almost unnatural, robes of golden silk shifting like liquid light around her form. Her eyes, twin orbs of molten gold, scanned the diner with a calm, measured scrutiny, as if she could see the weight of each decision in the room. Every patron felt small in her presence, though none dared speak it aloud. The air itself seemed to bend slightly around her, faint static whispering at the edges of perception. She approached the counter and without ceremony asked for a simple meal. A nutrient stew, a loaf of crusty bread, and a cup of spiced synth tea. Nothing lavish. No menu manipulation, no special requests, just sustenance. Jaren's eyes softened in amusement as he began preparing the order. "On the house," he said, setting the plate in front of her with a polite nod. She blinked, perhaps in surprise, perhaps in disbelief. "I don't need this," she murmured. Her voice was melodic, almost like the hum of a resonator crystal, yet threaded with authority that made every word feel important. Jaren shrugged, unconcerned. Everyone deserves a good meal. He leaned slightly on the counter, casual, friendly, unaware of how monumental that small gesture was. To him, this was routine kindness, the bare minimum of decency. To her, it was extraordinary. She took her seat by the window, the soft neon light reflecting off her golden robes, making her appear almost otherworldly. She ate slowly, savoring each bite, though her expression remained serene and unreadable. Jaren watched occasionally, wiping nearby tables, making sure no one disturbed her. There was something calming in her stillness, something that made the noise of the station feel distant and irrelevant. Minutes passed. Patrons returned to their meals. Conversation resumed in low murmurs. But he noticed her hands rest lightly on the edge of the table, her eyes momentarily flicking toward him, as if recognizing a rare honesty in the simple act he had performed. Back aboard her Imperial Starcruiser Eternum, she recorded the encounter. Not the meal itself, but the human who had served it without hesitation, without expectation, without calculation. Jaren, human, kind, oblivious. She smiled faintly as the logs filled with his details, noting the rare quality of a being whose loyalty was not bought, whose kindness was freely given. Meanwhile, Jaren continued his routine, completely unaware of the ripples his small act of generosity had caused. He cleaned tables, stacked trays, and greeted a few late arrivals, oblivious to the political tremors beginning to vibrate across multiple star systems. One act of honesty, one free meal, was quietly reshaping alliances, tipping power scales, and perhaps even averting conflicts that no one in the diner could ever imagine. An hour passed and she finished her meal. She left a modest tip, not as payment, but as a token of appreciation, though Jaren barely noticed, still wiping down the counter, still arranging chairs with precise care. She exited into the neon-lit night of Terra Station IX, her silhouette fading into the dockside shadows, leaving behind nothing but a lingering warmth, the subtle scent of her robes, and a faint memory that would quietly imprint itself on the human who had no idea whom he had just served. As the door closed behind her, the small bell chimed once more. Jaren straightened, nodded politely to the remaining patrons, and returned to his work. For him, it was just another night at the diner. For her, it was a rare moment of humanity amidst the endless weight of rulership. And somewhere far above the station, in the silent corridors of her flagship, the ruler of the galaxy smiled. A simple human had unknowingly reminded her that not all power is measured in fleets, credits, or decrees. Sometimes, the quietest gestures carry the heaviest weight, so heavy, in fact, that entire star systems might pivot on them. Jaren wiped the last table, stacked the remaining plates, and finally allowed himself a small sigh. Little did he know, by serving her a free meal, he had already altered the course of galactic events. And though he would never realize it, the galaxy would remember his kindness long before it remembered his name. Jaren sat stiffly in the sleek shuttle, the hum of its ion engines vibrating softly beneath him. He had never flown in a craft like this before. The cabin was minimalist, almost eerily quiet, lit by soft panels that reflected the golden glow of the woman sitting across from him. She reclined slightly in her seat, hands folded over her lap. The calm she exuded could have steadied a fleet in the middle of a solar storm. Yet she was watching him closely, as if calculating how a human mind could cope with the galaxy's intricacies. "You must have questions," she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of a ruler and the warmth of a stranger who had shared a meal. Jaren exhaled slowly. Yeah, first off, why me? I just served your meal. I didn't do anything special." She smiled faintly. "You served without expectation. Most humans, or most beings for that matter, serve only when they benefit. You acted with integrity. That is far rarer than courage and far more valuable." Jaren blinked. "Integrity? I just didn't want anyone to go hungry. And yet your small choice affected an entire supply convoy. You may not have noticed, but someone was watching, someone who intended to take advantage of a vulnerable fleet. Your act disrupted their plan, unintentionally protecting thousands." He leaned back, stunned. "Wait, I stopped an attack by giving you free stew?" "Yes," she said, her golden eyes softened. "The galaxy works in unexpected ways. A simple act can ripple farther than the largest fleets." The shuttle turned slightly, revealing the vastness of space outside. Stars twinkled, distant planets drifted silently, and nebulae glimmered like spilled stardust. Jaren swallowed. I don't know if I'm cut out for any of this." She inclined her head. "You are not expected to be a politician, a commander, or a diplomat. You are expected to be human, grounded, honest, capable of seeing what others overlook. That is why I brought you here." The shuttle's AI chirped softly, notifying them of incoming communications. She tapped a panel, and a holographic map of the outer rim appeared. Several markers blinked red: supply depots, patrol points, minor fleets, and one active blockade disrupting civilian transport. "Your first task," she said, "is to observe, see what I see, learn how even the smallest decisions affect countless lives." Jaren squinted at the display. "Observe, okay, but I've never even left Terra Station IX before." "That is why you are perfect," she replied. "Your perspective is untainted by ambition, greed, or fear of status. You can see the world as it is, not as others want it to be." He swallowed nervously, glancing at her golden eyes again. They seemed almost alive, like they could weigh his thoughts before he thought them. "And what happens if I mess up?" Her smile was gentle, almost teasing. "Then I adapt, and I trust that you will adapt too. Humans have a remarkable capacity to endure and respond to challenges. You've already proven it." Jaren exhaled slowly, trying to process everything. He had gone from wiping tables to navigating star maps and influencing galactic strategy without even realizing it. He still felt like the same man he had been yesterday, yet everything around him had shifted. The shuttle's engines hummed louder as it entered a higher orbit, preparing to jump to hyperspace. Stars stretched into streaks of light outside the windows. Jaren gripped the edge of his seat. "Hyperspace travel, that's real." She nodded, eyes on the navigation display. "Real and dangerous if you underestimate it. But like life, it rewards attention and clarity. Keep your focus, and you will find your place." For the first time, Jaren realized that the galaxy wasn't just a backdrop for rulers and fleets. It was a living network of choices, consequences, and unseen ripples. And somehow, by serving a simple meal, he had stepped into its center. She turned slightly toward him, her voice quiet but firm. "Jaren, you may feel small, insignificant even. But your presence here is proof that even the ordinary can change extraordinary outcomes. The galaxy may bend around the brave, but it remembers those who act with integrity." Jaren exhaled, trying to absorb her words. The stars streaked past as the shuttle accelerated into the void. Fear and excitement mingled in his chest. He didn't know what awaited him, what missions, battles, or politics might come next, but he knew one thing. He wouldn't be serving anyone meals in ignorance ever again. He was part of something far bigger now. And somewhere deep in the shuttle's quiet hum, Jaren made a silent promise. To act as he always had, guided by simple honesty and a human heart, even when the fate of the galaxy depended on it. The shuttle jolted, signaling entry into hyperspace. Outside, the stars stretched into endless streaks of white light. Jaren leaned back, gripping the seat, realizing for the first time that the galaxy, immense, dangerous, and infinite, was about to see what one human could do. The shuttle emerged from hyperspace near a small cluster of outlying stations on the edge of Outer Rim Sector 12. The stations were battered and barely functioning, but they were lifelines for the surrounding colonies. Lights flickered, warning sirens pulsed faintly, and the faint hiss of venting air echoed through the docking corridors. Jaren looked out the viewport, blinking. This is what you wanted me to see." She nodded, her golden robes catching the dim light of the docking bay. "Yes, this sector is in chaos because the local supply networks have been sabotaged. If we don't intervene, the colonies here will face starvation. And the perpetrators are already moving to exploit it." Jaren swallowed, "And I help by observing and by choosing to act where others hesitate," she replied. "Sometimes a simple choice is all that prevents disaster. Sometimes the ordinary is extraordinary." They exited the shuttle into the docking corridor. Maintenance bots rolled past, carrying crates, while humans and alien workers hurried to repair critical systems. Jaren felt out of place, but she didn't hesitate. She led him through the maze of corridors, briefing him in hushed tones. "They'll attempt to seize the central energy grid," she said. "If they succeed, every station in the sector goes dark. No lights, no shields, no life support. We can't allow that." Jaren's heart pounded. He had never fired a weapon outside training simulations, never faced real danger. Yet the calm authority in her voice gave him a strange courage. They reached the control hub, a small chamber of blinking panels and console arrays. She motioned to a tactical display. Red dots moved across the map, intruders heavily armed moving toward the grid. "You need to help me divert them," she said. "Your perspective, you notice things others don't." Jaren leaned forward, eyes scanning the display. "They're splitting into 3 groups. One's heading straight for the power core. The others are using maintenance tunnels. If I reroute the secondary security bots, we can intercept them." She nodded. "Good, do it." Hands trembling slightly, Jaren accessed the local security network. He rerouted automated defenses, set traps in the maintenance tunnels, and rerouted energy fields to create narrow choke points. He worked quickly, guided by logic, instinct, and the quiet confidence she instilled in him. Almost immediately, alarms blared and the first intruders ran into the traps. Automated turrets fired precise bursts, energy nets ensnared others, and the intruders were neutralized with minimal damage. "Excellent," she said quietly. "See, your choices matter." Jaren exhaled, still shaking but proud. I actually helped." "Yes," she replied, golden eyes scanning the room. "You just did, and not because of rank or credits or orders, because you acted correctly. That is far more valuable than any title." Suddenly, a warning flashed on the console. A stealth unit had breached the main corridor, moving directly toward them. She glanced at him. "Jaren, cover me. I will disable the intruder's cloaking field, but you must block the corridor." He swallowed. "Me, but—" "No hesitation," she said. "You can do this." For the first time, he felt the weight of true responsibility, and for the first time, he trusted himself. He moved into the corridor, energy baton in hand, heart hammering. The intruder emerged, a hulking alien in dark armor, weapon raised. Jaren's instincts took over. He blocked, dodged, and used the narrow corridor to his advantage, funneling the intruder into an automated trap she had activated remotely. Sparks flew. Energy arcs crackled. Within seconds, the threat was neutralized. Breathing heavily, Jaren stepped back. She joined him, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. "You did it. You acted without thinking of reward, without hesitation. That is why you are here. That is why I chose to bring you along." He shook his head in disbelief. "I just followed your lead." She smiled softly. "And yet it was your choices, your human perspective, that saved these colonies. Never underestimate the power of the ordinary." Outside, the sector lights blinked back to full power, and the stations hummed with life once more. Jaren finally understood. This galaxy, vast and dangerous, wasn't ruled only by fleets, politics, or wealth. It could be shaped by courage, by kindness, and by ordinary humans willing to act. As they returned to the shuttle, Jaren looked back at the bustling stations. He still didn't fully grasp the enormity of it all, but he understood one truth: one human could make a difference. And somewhere in the stars, the galaxy had already noted back aboard the shuttle. The hum of the engines felt almost gentle compared to the chaos they just left behind. Jaren slumped into his seat, exhausted, still processing everything that had happened in the Outer Rim sector. He had saved stations, intercepted intruders, and, most unbelievable of all, he had done it without realizing how monumental his actions were. She watched him quietly, eyes golden and unreadable, but there was a faint trace of pride. "You did well," she said softly. "More than well, you kept perspective where most would panic. That is rare." Jaren shook his head. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," she replied, calm but firm. "Most would not. Most would wait for instructions, fear the consequences, or prioritize their own safety. You acted because it was the right thing. That is why the galaxy will notice you." He laughed nervously. "The galaxy? I'm just a diner waiter from Terra Station IX. I don't belong in the stars." She tilted her head, golden eyes serious. "Do you really think the galaxy cares where you came from? It cares about what you do. Decisions matter, actions ripple, and your actions have already changed several systems' course of survival." The shuttle AI chimed softly. A secure message had arrived from Imperial Command. She tapped it, projecting a hologram over the console. Lines of communication flickered from multiple sectors, each marked with commendations, reports, and requests for audience. Jaren's jaw dropped. They know my name," she nodded. "They know your actions, not your name, but that is enough. In time, your name will follow." One of the messages detailed the immediate stabilization of the Outer Rim stations. Another outlined potential sabotage in a nearby sector. Yet another came from a neutral trading coalition, expressing astonishment that a single human had acted decisively to prevent catastrophe. Jaren swallowed hard. I didn't even know what I was doing until it worked." "Exactly," she said softly. "Your perspective is unclouded. Your decisions are free of politics, fear, or greed. That is why I brought you here. That is why you are important." He looked out the viewport at the stars streaking past in hyperspace, blinking in disbelief. Just yesterday, he had been wiping tables. Now he was being pulled into events that spanned systems, sectors, and fleets. And the person guiding him through it, the ruler of the galaxy herself, had trusted him entirely. She turned her gaze toward him, eyes reflecting the distant light of a nearby star. "Jaren, there are many who will question your presence. Many who will try to dismiss you. But remember this, you act with integrity and you act decisively. That is all anyone can ask of you." He nodded slowly. I'll try. That is all you need to do," she said. Then almost teasingly she added, "Though you should learn to duck occasionally, the galaxy is not always gentle." For the first time, Jaren allowed himself a small smile. He felt the weight of responsibility, but also a thrill he had never known in his quiet diner back on Terra Station IX. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable, but for the first time he felt he could navigate it. The shuttle emerged from hyperspace near the Imperial Fleet's command station. Glimmering ships of all shapes and sizes orbited the sector, their engines casting faint light across the void. Signals from multiple allied systems reached the station, all coordinated to acknowledge the success of the Outer Rim operation. She glanced at him. "Your reputation precedes you now. Even if you do not wish it, others will see what you have done, and soon you may be called upon again." Jaren exhaled slowly. "Called upon to do what? More impossible things?" She smiled faintly. "To act, to choose wisely. To remind the galaxy that even one ordinary human can tip the balance." And as the shuttle docked with the massive command station, Jaren realized the truth of her words. The galaxy was watching, and somehow, despite his ordinary beginnings, he was no longer ordinary. He was part of something far larger than any diner, far larger than any meal he had served. He was part of the galaxy itself. And for the first time, he felt ready. The shuttle's docking clamps released with a metallic hiss, and Jaren stepped onto the sprawling command station for the first time. Massive banners of the Imperial fleet hung from high arches, golden insignias glinting in the light of distant stars. Humans were rare here, and Jaren could feel dozens of alien eyes scanning him, curious, cautious, skeptical. She guided him to a wide corridor lined with delegates, strategists, and officers of every shape and size. From towering reptilian generals to delicate-winged diplomats, every species had a stake in the decisions made here. And all of them were about to see a human who had done what no one expected, act decisively and selflessly. "Your first audience," she said softly, golden eyes fixed on him, "will not be a battle of weapons. It will be a battle of perception. They will doubt you, dismiss you, and perhaps even challenge your presence." Stay calm, speak with integrity. That is all you need. Jaren swallowed. Integrity, right? The council chamber opened before them. Hundreds of representatives stood in semicircular tiers, voices buzzing with debate. Hollow projections of star systems hovered above the chamber floor, marking contested territories and resource networks. At the center, the High Chancellor, an insected diplomat with shimmering carapace, observed him carefully. "You brought a human?" A deep, resonant voice boomed from the upper tier. A massive amphibious delegate leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "We are here to discuss fleet allocations, not entertain diners from backwater stations." Jaren's palms were sweaty, but he remembered her words. He stepped forward, voice steady. "I am here not as a diplomat, not as a commander, but as someone who acted when action was needed. I do not seek credit, I do not seek favor. I only wish to prevent harm and uphold what is right." A murmur ran through the chamber. Some delegates snorted in disbelief. Others tilted their heads, intrigued. The High Chancellor leaned forward, antennae twitching. "And what qualifies you to speak on these matters?" Jaren met his gaze. "Yesterday, I served a meal. Today, that simple act helped prevent sabotage in a vital supply sector. The colonies were saved. Thousands live because of what some might call a small choice. That is why I am here, not to claim power, but to remind you that even small actions matter." Silence followed. Then a winged diplomat murmured, curious, a human yet decisive. Another, an avian strategist, nodded, integrity, rare but powerful. The golden-robed ruler of the galaxy observed from the side, her expression unreadable. But when Jaren finished, she inclined her head slightly, a gesture of approval no one missed. The chamber erupted in questions. Delegates debated fiercely, some testing him, some trying to provoke, others sincerely seeking guidance. Jaren answered with calm logic, honest reasoning, and human clarity. Each answer surprised them, how someone so ordinary could analyze, decide, and act without bias or ego. Minutes stretched, tension thick. Finally, the High Chancellor spoke. "Remarkable. It seems we have underestimated this human, not for lack of skill, but for lack of expectation." Jaren exhaled slowly, relief washing over him. He had survived his first political test. And more than surviving, he had earned a fraction of respect. The first acknowledgement that even an ordinary human could hold their own among the galaxy's most powerful beings. The golden-robed ruler stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You have done well, not because you followed orders, but because you acted as a human should. That is far more important than fleets or credits." Jaren nodded. I'll do my best." She smiled, golden eyes warm yet commanding. "You already have, and the galaxy will remember it." Outside the chamber, the stars shone cold and bright. Jaren realized that the galaxy was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. But he now understood that integrity, courage, and even the smallest acts could ripple farther than anyone imagined. For the first time, he felt truly ready. The council chamber had emptied, but the echoes of debate lingered. Jaren walked alongside the golden-robed ruler of the galaxy, his steps steady, though his heart still raced. He had survived scrutiny, skepticism, and the weight of entire systems resting on his choices. Outside, the stars stretched across the void, endless and indifferent. Yet for the first time, Jaren understood that even the smallest human action could leave a mark across that vast expanse. "Do you see now?" she asked softly, her golden eyes reflecting distant nebulae. "The galaxy is shaped not only by fleets or credits, but by the choices of individuals. Even one human acting with integrity can tip the scales." Jaren nodded, still absorbing the enormity of it. I never imagined this. A meal yesterday and now, fleets, stations, councils, all because I acted without thinking of reward." She smiled faintly. "You acted as humans are meant to, honestly, without calculation, without expectation. That is why you are remarkable. That is why you are needed." At that moment, a calm burst through. A cluster of outer colonies had formally requested his assistance and guidance, citing his decisive actions at the Outer Rim sector. Messages from neutral alliances, imperial fleets, and even former rivals arrived, all acknowledging his role. Jaren blinked. They want me to lead now?" "Not lead," she corrected. "Guide, observe, intervene where your perspective matters. You are not above the galaxy, you are part of it, reminding it that courage, integrity, and human judgment still hold weight, even among rulers and fleets." He swallowed, realizing the truth. He was no longer just a diner waiter from Terra Station IX. He had become a symbol, a proof that ordinary humans, acting with honesty and courage, could influence the galaxy itself. She placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. Remember this, Jaren, the galaxy may test you, challenge you, even doubt you, but never doubt your own worth. You have already proven that one human, acting rightly, can change the course of countless lives. Jaren looked out the viewport at the stars stretching into infinity. Somewhere among them, fleets and stations, councils and colonies, were already moving in response to the ripples he had created. He felt a sense of quiet pride, not from glory or recognition, but from knowing that his choices, simple, human, honest, had mattered. Finally, he turned to her. I won't fail. Not because I'm fearless, but because I'll act rightly every time wherever I am. She inclined her head, golden robes glowing faintly in the light. Then the galaxy is in safe hands. Not because of my command or the fleets, but because of humans like you. And as the shuttle lifted off from the command station, Jaren felt it. A small diner waiter from Terra Station IX had become more than anyone imagined. He had become the quiet force that reminded a galaxy of the power of integrity, courage, and the simplest human acts. Somewhere in the stars, the galaxy paused and acknowledged him. Not for his title, not for his rank, not for his wealth, for being human. And in that moment, Jaren realized the ordinary could be extraordinary. The galaxy would never forget the human who served a free meal and unknowingly changed everything. Crown Fork knowingly changed everything. Crown Fork